Hello, wonder, close your eyes. A cool draft hums through a forgotten tunnel beneath divided Berlin. The air is chalk dry, sprinkled with the secret dust of two empires that still pretend to be polite. For now, you're only a visitor, ears open. Shoulders light, thoughts already sinking towards sleep dock just ahead. A hooded bulb glows like a cautious firefly, revealing ribbed concrete and miles of cable gleaming like tense piano strings. Tonight the tunnel is a stethoscope pressed against the iron curtain, listening for the Kremlin's heartbeat. It sounds mostly like static, gossip, and yawn-wide bureaucratic code words. But to the men stationed here, the noise is pure gold. Agent. Evelyn Drake from MI6 leans back on a folding chair that squeaks louder than classified telegrams. She counts each squeal as a personal act of psychological warfare. If Moscow can't hear the chair, the tunnel remains safe. Across from her, CIA tech wizard Sam Murphy taps at a reel-to-reel recorder with the tenderness of a pianist. Checking pitch. They've been down here for 7 hours, long enough for coffee to taste like cardboard courage. Still neither complains. Complaining risks echoing, and echoes attract suspicion. Instead, they trade silent victory smirks. Each time a Soviet colonel mentions launch plans at exactly the same minute every night, a single red indicator light flickers. Less dramatic than a spy novel would insist, yet its tiny pulse rules the shift. When it glows steady, the tap is clear. When it blinks, someone up above chickles a line, as if nervously tugging on the truth. You might imagine high drama pistols drawn, trench coats swishing, codes whispered through clenched jaws. Instead, the loudest threat is Murph's stomach, announcing dinner's absence. Evelyn slides over a smuggled British chocolate bar, half melted, wholly diplomatic. The Cold War, she jokes in a breathy murmur, is actually fought between sugar crashes. They listen for hours to mundane Soviet chatter, a requisition order for winter boots, a reprimand for late paperwork, a brief debate about whether cucumbers belong in borscht. Between lines, Evelyn doodles caricatures of Khrushchev with tap shoes. Murph files mental recipes for enemy soup. Humor here is a velvet blanket thrown over barbed wire. Above their heads, Berlin sleeps under armed spotlights, each sector pretending. The night is normal. Down here, time glides slower than diplomacy. Every tick of the recorder head etches magnetic memories that will be whisked to Langley and Vauxhall before sunrise. The tape reels spin like lullaby wheels, soft enough that your own pulse begins to sync. Cable splice the thickness of your thumb snakes along the wall into a small plywood cabinet nicknamed the confessional. Evelyn opens it once an hour to check levels, greeting the circuit board as if it were a house cat quiet, aloof, storing secrets in its whiskers. She closes the door with monk-like care, the click softer than turning a page. On a stack of coax spools sits a polished river. Stone. It looks harmless, but inside is a microphotographic vault barely larger than a postage stamp. If patrols ever burst through the trapdoor behind them, the stone will disappear into a pocket, then across Checkpoint Charlie like an ordinary souvenir. Spycraft, Evelyn thinks, is 90% props from a children's magic kit. Murph replaces. A full reel with an empty one, winding tape like a quiet fisherman pulling in nerves. He labels it Night Song 27, confident some analyst back home will appreciate poetry on a cardboard core. That tiny flourish is a rebellion against Form 716. Monotony. It keeps his mind warm. Your eyelids may feel the same warmth now, gathering weight as the tunnel's hush blankets you. Notice how the room temperature in your own bed seems to match the steady 12 degrees Celsius down here. Cool enough for clarity, safe enough for surrender. A telephone handset insulated in rubber waits on a crate, the umbilical up to station center. Evelyn lifts it once, whispers a coded status, and listens to the reply, nothing but a click of acknowledgement. Somewhere topside, a board duty officer notes, line A clear, and returns to crosswords about capital cities he'll never freely visit. The world remains complicated, yet this single circuit of trust feels simple as candlelight. Minutes soften into imperceptible swells. The tunnel's distant hum becomes ocean surf in your imagination, gentle, regular, persuasive. Each real change is a lighthouse blink, reminding you land exists even while drifting. Let the rhythm guide your breathing. Slow inhale, patient hold. Smoother exhale. Evelyn checks her wristwatch, whose luminescent dial paints her knuckles sea green. Shift change approaches, but she's content to wait, enjoying the absurdity that global brinkmanship can look like two introverts in cardigans watching Wires. Murph scribbles a note for the next crew. Coffee pot hot, morale hotter. He doubts an exaggerated smiley face contraband cheer in monochrome corridors. A faint clatter from an access ladder overhead freezes them for half a second. It's only condensation dripping on rungs, the tunnel clearing its throat. Still, suspense lingers like distant thunder, then dissolves. They exhale together, the shared silence another secret kept. Listen, even anxiety wears slippers here. When tension rises, it pats softly, careful not to wake suspicion or you. Soon the incoming agents will descend, and Evelyn will return topside to streetlights shaped like bayonets. Yet for the moment, calm reigns absolute. Picture her securing headphones on a peg, running fingers along the cable one last time, the way a gardener strokes ivy. She thinks of home, of trains that arrive without guards, of tea steam curling in peace. Murph imagines baseball on a sunny lawn, where signals are given openly and the scoreboard means exactly what it shows. Dreams for spies are contraband, too but impossible to confiscate. A soft metallic creak signals the hatch unlatching. Two silhouettes rattle in, exchanging silent nods and thermos flasks. Shift overlap lasts 60 seconds, just long enough for invisible handshakes and the passing of passwords that taste like nursery rhymes. Then Evelyn and Murph climb upward, footfalls measured, leaving fresh ears to keep the vigil. Their absence folds the tunnel into deeper quiet. Only the cables continue whispering, a lullaby in riddles. If you tilt your inner ear, you might hear them too. Fricatives of distant Russian voices, consonants softened by soil, vowels drifting like snow between. Telegraph poles don't let that phantom chatter blur into white noise, harmless as wind against curtains. Inhale gently, imagining the air down here, cool and limestone clean. Exhale slower, letting any leftover tension seep into the earth as if through the tunnel floor. Notice how your thoughts begin to wander, then to idle, then to rest. Somewhere in the labyrinth of your memory, a stone hides its own microfilm of unfinished worries. Grant yourself permission to misplace that stone for the night. Diplomatic pouches can wait. Inboxes can sleep. Right now, neutrality is bliss. The Cold Wars. Grand chessboard will still be set at dawn pawns frozen mid-stride. Bishops poised along shadowed diagonals. For this hour, you get to step away from the board, cup hands around a private stillness, and drift. Imagine rising up the ladder, emerging into a starlit Berlin alley where even the searchlights seem drowsy. Then imagine slipping past them, further and further until their beams can no longer reach. Let your breath settle like dust on the cables. Let your heartbeat align with the reel-to-reel slow rotation. And if sleep settles in now, know the tunnel will keep listening patient, unwavering, politely dull, until morning clarifies the map again. For tonight, the secrets are safe, the stones stay hidden, and you can finally yield to the hush. Gently let your eyelids droop. Tonight we're stealing silence from a storm. The rain above Berlin has been rehearsing all evening, drumming rooftops with the kind of patience only weather and diplomats possess. Down here in the listening tunnel, every drop is a drummer casting the ceiling, asking politely if secrets are ready to come out and play. You can almost hear the Soviet switchboard operators sigh when thunder rolls. Static is the one ally they share with London and Langley, Evelyn. Drake breathes in the petrichor sneaking down the access shaft, decides it smells like trench coats left too close to history. Her new partner for the shift, Corporal Joey Rivera, a Puerto Rican codebreaker on loan from the U.S. Army, leans against a cable rack, pretending the whole strategic balance of power doesn't wobble on his pencil. He's erased so many cryptic Cyrillic jargon fragments that the tunnel floor looks like it snowed eraser crumbs. The first hook of the night arrives courtesy of a Soviet major who, at 22:07 sharp, orders 20 cases of tinned peaches. Joey mouths the word peaches, as if it's a joke nobody explained. Evelyn shrugs. Empire, it turns out, has a sweet tooth. Somewhere in the White House, a policy analyst will soon agonize over whether peaches signify pre-invasion glycogen loading. Overhead, a passing tram makes the walls tremble just enough to remind them that Berlin is still a city and not merely a chessboard caption. The vibration sets off a string of brass bells sewn onto Evelyn's memory. Christmas markets, cathedral choirs, children shouting in languages that don't need translation. The bells fade and the tunnel returns to lawful monotony. Joey cues up a fresh reel. The tape glides between spindles with the hush of a cat crossing parquet. He's named this recorder Lolita because it steals older men's voices, and the joke makes Evelyn pretend to scold him with her eyebrows. Humor, she's convinced, is an unseen wire that keeps morale strung tightly between boredom and dread dot at 2319. The phone rings twice and stops station protocol for "we're fine. No one's been captured. Carry on." Evelyn half hopes for 3 rings, the tensed spring excitement of an unscheduled crisis. 2 rings feel like being ghosted by catastrophe. She writes the timestamp anyway. Paper, unlike memory, doesn't get sentimental. Rainwater finally warms through a hairline crack and falls onto the signal amplifier with a plink. Joey catches the droplet in his palm before it can commit sabotage, then whispers a mock sermon about baptism by conductivity. Evelyn answers with a medieval monk bow, hands pressed like icons. Somewhere, Kierkegaard rolls over in his grave, muttering footnotes. Midnight arrives disguised as 0 o'clock, and the generator hiccups exactly once enough to flicker the bulbs and expose everyone's cheekbones as dramatic cliffs. For 2 heartbeats, the tunnel looks like a black and white photograph nobody signed. They hold still, listening for boots. The darkness offers none. The light returns shyly, cheeks flushed. A fresh Soviet voice crackles through, a communications clerk reciting personnel rosters with the charisma of wet cardboard. Joey counts syllables, instant haiku. Comrade Ivanov misses his bus every day, delay sabotage. Evelyn snorts, biting her lip to keep the laugh from echoing. Their haiku anthology is already 14 pounds thick, classified top secret, and wildly unpublishable. You may feel your own breathing slow as their laughter dissolves. The rain's percussion softens, slipping from snare to brush, and the tunnel settles into something that could pass for lullaby territory. If you drift off for a paragraph, don't worry, the Cold War will still be here when you wake Dot at 037. The red indicator light nicknamed Rasputin, for its ability to survive technical assassinations, flashes twice. Evelyn adjusts a gain knob, her fingertips dancing like a safe crackers. The faint hum swells into a party line of giggles. It's a birthday call inside Soviet headquarters. A woman sings a Russian version of Happy Birthday, followed by raucous toasts. Joey mouths the words in shaky phonetics, raising an invisible glass. Evelyn joins, toasting with her thermos of lukewarm tea. For one surreal minute, East and West throw confetti together. Thunder booms, and the cable rack shivers like a startled dog. A jar of graphite paste tips over, splashing the floor with shiny black ink blot continents. Joey votes to name the biggest spill Atlantis. Evelyn deploys paper towels like amphibious landing craft. They mop in silence, each towel absorbing. A small republic of anxiety. When the storm pauses, a different noise emerges. Distant jazz from an East Berlin bar, captured by open telephone lines. The horn section stumbles through autumn leaves, and the pianist vandalizes the key signature with heroic indifference. Evelyn closes her eyes, letting the melody repaint the tunnel in candlelit crimsons. Joey taps out the bass line on his clipboard, bold as treason. Music, they decide, is the only contraband that can't be confiscated. Merely muted 110. The duty log requires a morale statement. Evelyn writes, spirits nominal. Storm provides free white noise. Joey adds, request umbrella budget. He dots the I in umbrella with a lightning bolt. Somewhere, a clerk in West Germany will file these lines under miscod. The rain breaks apart, scattering its percussion into dripping applause. Surface dogs bark as patrol jeeps rumble nearer the sector border. Their headlights slice the wet streets above, but here underground, the glow is just rumor. Evelyn recites a silent inventory. 4 spools full, 1 stone capsule in pocket, 2. Agents almost awake. Good enough, Dot. She wonders whether the Soviets have tunnels of their own parallel lines that almost touch, but never meet. Like lines in geometry class. Joey suggests they're probably eavesdropping on NATO ordering coffee. War, he decides, is mostly a global exchange of barista gossip. A fuse blows somewhere distant, and the tunnel's hum slumps. Backup batteries inhale with a soft whine. The tape hiccups, but continues. Evelyn checks levels. Nothing lost. The crisis lasted 3 seconds, long enough for adrenaline to scribble its graffiti on their heartbeats. Short enough to become anecdote fodder. Dot outside. Church bells announce 2. A clock as if time needs reminders. Inside, Evelyn flips the reel. The clatter of mechanics feels intimate, like turning a pillow to the cool side. Joey yawns an apology. Evelyn grants absolution. Yawns don't echo. They evaporate. Fresh Soviet chatter now concerns theater tickets for a touring ballet. Joey imagines KGB agents pirouetting mid-interrogation, and Evelyn nearly snorts tea through her nose. The Cold War, it seems, is a tragicomedy with excellent footwork. At 2:26. A coded phrase slips through the wires. Hidden stones will move at dawn. Both agents freeze, minds racing. Could be a shipment of microfilm, or maybe someone's silly metaphor for vodka crates. They mark the tape, tag the transcript, and exchange the silent grin of hunters sniffing fresh tracks. Then they remember their primary mission tonight. Keep breathing. Keep recording. Let analysts do the heavy lifting tomorrow. Your breathing may sync with theirs now. And Hold out steady as the tape reels spin. Feel how tired thoughts settle, like dust motes in the lamplight. If you need sleep, take it nothing explosive is scheduled before sunrise. Joey cracks his knuckles, regretting it immediately as the sound ricochets. Evelyn raises an eyebrow, the international sign for rookie. Joey mouths sorry. The tunnel forgives. It's heard worse. A moth from nowhere flitters around the bulb, casting outsized shadows. Evelyn gently cups it, whispers, "Wrong side of history, little spy," and releases it toward the shaft. Joey imagines the moth will defect to West Berlin, file for asylum, and open a tiny cafe next to the wall. Humor. Again, patches the drafts. 3 o'clock brings shift change. From above, boots descend like punctuation marks ending a sentence. 2 fresh agents take over, Andre from Montreal and Petra from Aberdeen, both looking caffeinated enough to interrogate Sunrise. Evelyn passes them a quick summary, mostly weather metaphors and peach jokes, and hands over Rasputin's fickle moods dotted the ladder she climbs. Joey close behind, each rung a promise of fresh air. Night rain has cleaned the city. The street smells like wet newspapers and distant bakery ovens preparing dawn rolls. They disappear into opposite alleys, bags light, minds lighter dot below. The tape rails keep their vigil, capturing whispers and rainfall alike. You can let them watch the world for you a while. They're good at it. And if dreams find you before the next thunderclap, consider it strategic leave granted. For now, the storm begins its encore somewhere east, practicing cymbal crashes for a daylight audience. The tunnel absorbs the tremor, unflinching, unbreakable, humming lullabies in Morse. Let those hums fill your chest. Push out the day. Tuck you beneath a diplomatic blanket woven from peach cans. Ballet tickets and raindrop sermons. Close what's left of your waking eyes. Listen to the delicate static of international night. The cables will keep score. The rain will keep time. And you lucky civilian observer are free to sleep like secrets kept safe underground. Close your eyes. Somewhere beneath East Berlin, a single teaspoon rattles, and history holds its breath. The tunnel has learned to mimic the city above. Storm drains gurgle in sympathy with Soviet propaganda loudspeakers and the concrete walls. Shiver whenever a tram changes gear 2 stories overhead. Tonight, those echoes braid themselves into a lullaby equal parts mechanical, political, and politely paranoid. You arrive during the final hour of a 14-hour shift, the moment when clocks feel sticky and jokes start tasting like instant coffee. Agent Julia Nightingale of MI6 balances on a timber stool that appears to have been salvaged from Noah's Ark. She flips through a German fashion magazine, not to keep up with hemlines, but to papered clip-coated margin notes. For every 4 pictures of plaid overcoats, a single phrase glows in invisible ink. Crow's nest confirmed, cord static. Nicholson turns east. Across from her, CIA engineer Hank O'Brien plays chess against himself on a dog-eared board. He moves the black pieces with his left hand, the white pieces with his right, narrating each attack in a whisper softer than the static on the listening mind. When Black sacrifices a knight for initiative, Hank shakes his head like a disappointed. Father then records the move on a pad entitled Potential Kremlin Gambits. Even as daydreams wear trench coats, a bare filament bulb trembles overhead, painting everything in sepia. The glow lands on rows of steel cabinets, each stuffed with reel-to-reel tapes labeled in fountain pen script organized insomnia. Anyone looking for drama would be let down. The cabinets carry no scent of gun oil or cologne, only cardboard and pencil shavings. Espionage, it turns out, smells like the corner of a stationery shop. Julia bites into a contraband apple and winces. Its crunch snaps too loudly, threatening to appear on Moscow's morning intercept logs. Unidentified Western crunch. She mimes an apology to Hank, who salutes with a chipped enamel mug. A decade later, they will both confess in memoirs that this was the funniest thing that happened all week above ground. The sector boundary crackles with floodlights. Patrol dogs pace the frost-raged perimeter, their paws drum rolling against cobblestones. Down here, the dogs are missed like dragons or timely diplomatic cables. The only beast in residence is the ventilation fan, whose slow wheeze sounds suspiciously like someone sighing through a harmonica pitched to B minor. Intelligence has arrived from Station Center, a high-level Soviet. Liaison is bragging about an unnamed mole burrowed deep in Western ranks. The memo is written on cigarette paper so thin it feels like captive fog. Hank reads it twice, frowns, then folds it into a paper airplane which he absolutely does not launch. Instead, he parks it under the chessboard where it waits like a grounded. Sparrow Dot Julia tightens the strap on her headphones and leans toward the switchboard, chasing a faint frequency that smells of opportunity. The Soviet line hisses, clears its throat, and delivers exactly 23 seconds of military logistics. Regarding cabbage shipments to Gorky Park, then almost as an afterthought, a colonel sighs about the British bird in the wire nest. Julia's spine straightens, no code, no nickname. Just bird. She glances at Hank. He shrugs a question with his eyebrows. Was that about you? She answers by tapping the chessboard twice West version of maybe. Moments later, the line slides back into culinary tedium. Apparently, even traders need lunch breaks. From a pigeonhole drawer, Hank retrieves 2 chocolate-covered espresso beans, the official currency of late-shift alliances. One he eats, the second he flips to Julia with a practiced curveball. It arcs, stalls in midair as though reconsidering the entire Cold War, and lands directly in her breast pocket. She allows herself a soundless ta-ba. He bows like a stage. Magician to an audience of cables. Silence returns, but not the peaceful kind. It's the heavy, quilted hush that visits just before a power outage or a plot twist. Even the rain above stops drumming. In that vacuum, a thought blooms. What if the mole already knows about the tunnel? Julia traces a finger along the main tap. Cable, half expecting it to pulse like a living artery. Instead, it remains stubbornly inert, the sort of wire you'd trust with holiday lights, not geopolitics. Still, she imagines Russian ears on the far end, giggling at Western overconfidence. She imagines them doodling Union Jacks with frowny faces. She imagines them eating her apple crunch, replayed at half speed for comedic effect. Hank tries to lighten the mood by declaring checkmate white queen to g4. The only witness is a wobbling pawn. He logs the final position under the heading Possible NATO Riposte 1958. Chess may be a metaphor, but in his notebook, metaphors get footnotes. Beneath the diagram, he adds, "Note, purchase new sponges for coffee mugs." Even paranoia respects housekeeping. 3 floors up, a tram bell rings. The vibration flutters through drain pipes, rattles the bulb, and lands in Julia's eardrums disguised. As Morse, she decodes it automatically as PT, which means nothing. But in a place like this, every coincidence files for citizenship. A fresh reel clicks into place. Hank labels it Sleepless No 43. The previous 40, 2 reels chronicled everything from weather complaints to a heated debate over Bulgaria's chances in the Olympics. None of it moved the war needle. Yet analysts back home treat each syllable like a pharaoh's confession. History, apparently, is built from the crumbs of other people's small talk. Julia's magazine has reached its final page, an advertisement for champagne shaped like Eiffel Tower fireworks. She tears it out, folds it into a makeshift fan, and waves cool air across the amplifier tubes. Hank raises an eyebrow. Tube circuits hate drafts, but she whispers, consider it a breeze of democracy. The tubes survive. Democracy beams. Lightning sneaks across the city, its flash sneering through sewer grates. For half a heartbeat, the tunnel glows brighter than daylight, revealing spiderwebs that read like cracked maps of alternate borders. Thunder follows, so deep it seems to come from the Atlantic itself. Hank and Julia count seconds, as though timing artillery, even though both know the math is bogus comfort. When the rumble fades, a new voice enters the line, female, low, confident. She requests clearance codes for Operation Choirbook in an accent dance between Minsk and Manhattan. The cadence is familiar, unlisted, possibly fabricated. Julia scribbles the phonetics. Hank's chin drops. They share a glance. Every spy fears a mirror. The woman continues. Repeat. Wind velocity 8 barometer unsteady. Static chews the tail of each word like a nervous rat. Then silence. Hank flicks off the main selector switch, killing the feed. The sudden quiet feels like being thrown off a moving sled. Julia mouths, your call. He inhales, tastes the metal of the tunnel, exhales a reluctant, I heard my own mother's lullaby in that rhythm. She answers, I heard my university roommate pretending to be Claire Trevor. They laugh, one sharp, delighted, frightened. Somewhere, a Soviet operator writes unconfirmed laughter in a logbook. Decision time. Do they report a potential? Voice print match to the mole theory, or chalk it up to atmospheric prankery? The correct procedure is page 12 of the blue binder stapled to the desk. Hank opens the binder, scans the section titled Suspected Compromises. It recommends immediate shutdown and full extraction. He closes it. Page 12 has no sense of adventure, he mutters. Julia sets her magazine aside, no more coded margin. Nuts. She wants real ink. Pulling a fountain pen from her boot, she drafts a single sentence on steno paper. Echo chamber acquired new songbird. She blows on the ink, watching the letters dry like footage of a blossom opening. Then she folds the paper until it's the size of a postage stamp and hands it to Hank. He slides it inside the hollow of a night chess piece white, naturally then resets the board, placing the knight dead center. A symbolic promotion from cavalry to courier. Outside, the tram ding repeats. This time, Julia decodes ... Spa. Could be coincidence. Could be a menu suggestion for sleep. She chooses the latter, leaning back so the bulb's glow washes her face the color of candlelight. Her eyelids flutter like curtains flirting with midnight. Hank watches the oscilloscope trace gentle waves across its screen. The pattern looks like a nap taken seriously. Behind him, racks of tape whisper to each other in Ferris dreams, telling stories of prog jazz and Polish gossip, Swiss watch metaphors, and Hungarian leftovers. All of it matters. None of it matters. That duality is the tunnel's entire moral. Compass. Julia's breathing evens out, soft but determined, a kind of tactical meditation. Hank follows suit, shoulders settling. The bulb dims another watt, entering its own détente. In this fragile quiet, the war feels far away, like a rumor. Whispered 3 continents to the west. You feel it too, the distance, the unraveling tension. Let your own shoulders mimic Hank's slow surrender. Let your jaw unclench. Picture the chessboard resetting itself again and again until nothing remains but a field of perfect possibilities. If worry tries to re-enter, hand it a chocolate-coated espresso bean and ask it to wait outside. It will complain about calories. You will close the door. Meanwhile, the tunnel hums a lullaby woven from rainwater and voltmeters. Eventually, a relief crew will arrive, carrying thermoses, passwords, and fresh skepticism. They will find Julia awake and Hank pretending not to snore. The White Knight will sit harmlessly at E4, its secret folded inside. None the wiser. Before that happens, you have time enough to drift alongside the ventilation fan's steady moan, enough to imagine cabbages rolling into Gorky. Let your breathing drift. The city overhead is busy arguing with itself in a dozen dialects of neon. Down here, the tunnel rolls its eyes and refuses to pick a side. Concrete and cable have become old married partners, comfortable with the silence, still capable of bickering in pops and clicks. Each ping on the line is a tiny eye roll. A "here we go again," murmured in copper. Tonight begins with a spark, literally. A fuse in the ventilation box misbehaves, showering the floor with a miniature meteor storm. Nobody panics. The cold. War has taught everyone that drama is mostly paperwork wearing fireworks as perfume. Specialist Nora Hastings, MI6, flicks her flashlight toward the rogue sparks and sighs the sigh of a woman who once repaired a radio set with lipstick foil. Resourceful, yes, but also chronically undercaffeinated. Opposite her, CIA linguist Leo Vargas pushes thick-rimmed glasses up his nose and recalculates the likelihood of spontaneous tunnel combustion. The odds are low, he decides, about the same as Moscow admitting clerical error. A quick twist of wire cutters restores order. The sparks stop sulking. The cables return to their hobby of eavesdropping on shoe sizes and weather complaints east of the wall. Nora settles back into her folding chair. She has named the chair Milton because it wheezes like an asthmatic poet whenever she shifts weight. Tonight Milton is in rare form, squeaking an iambic pentameter of protest. Each time Nora crosses her legs, Leo smirks, jotting Milton versus democracy around 4 inches in his notebook, then returns to his headphones. The Soviets are discussing train timetables again, a topic Leo finds inexplicably soothing, like listening to someone alphabetize their anxieties. Overhead, a city tram rattles past Checkpoint Charlie. Its steel wheels drum a cadence that filters through soil and conduit, landing in the tunnel as a gentle percussion. The rhythm reminds Nora of distant surf, which reminds her of Cornwall, which reminds her she hasn't seen the ocean since the Suez fiasco stole all her vacation days. To compensate, she closes her eyes and imagines salt spray on her face, only to reopen them when a drip lands on her actual nose. Tunnel condensation, ever the prankster, chooses perfect comedic timing. Leo offers a handkerchief. The fabric is embroidered with tiny pineapples, his mother's idea of subtlety. Nora laughs, pockets the absurd fruit, and thanks him in German. Just to keep her accent nimble. In the far recesses of the passage, a maintenance bulb flickers and dies, leaving a short stretch of darkness that looks suspiciously like an ellipsis at the end of a classified memo. The remaining lights adjust their halos, eager not to be next. Silence here isn't empty, it's layered. First the hush of damp stone, then the hush of wires humming, then the hush of 2 agents privately editing tomorrow's anecdote. Above it all, the hush of what ifs. What if the tunnel is discovered? What if the war escalates? What if Milton finally breaks a leg? Nora removes a tin box from her. Satchel shortbread from an aunt who refuses to believe rationing ended. She snaps a biscuit in half, offering the larger piece to Leo. Leo declines. He is conducting a dangerous experiment in sugar abstinence. Nora shrugs, eats both halves, declares victory. A red light flares on the console, an incoming slice of Soviet chatter. Leo leans forward, posture crisp, headset snug. Nora straightens as well, though her hands linger near the biscuit tin in case morale requires reinforcements. The voices are faint but clear. Two telegraph operators gossip about a newly posted major who allegedly irons socks. Nora and Leo trade bewildered glances. The concept of starched hosiery is simultaneously hilarious and mildly threatening. Leo dutifully logs potential discipline fetish socks. Intelligence work, he muses, is 40% typing the word allegedly. Rain intensifies. Droplets become drumsticks, sheet metal becomes stage, and Berlin performs its most consistent jazz standard, Cascade in D minor, featuring distant sirens. The sound seeps through vent shafts, soft but insistent, as if the sky itself were practicing snare rolls. Nora checks the pressure gauge on the pump that keeps groundwater at bay. The needle wiggles near the comfort zone, like a dog deciding whether to nap or bark. She pats the metal housing affectionately. Stay, she whispers. The pump, content to be praised, settles into a cooperative hum. Leo resumes translation. The operators shift topics from socks to cinema schedules, then to beat quotas, then to why the beat quotas ruin the cinema schedules. Bureaucracy is a universal rom-com without a satisfying third act. Nora quietly sketches a cartoon beat, giving it dramatic soliloquy. She titles it Root Cause of Red Tape. Leo laughs into his sleeve. The tunnel swells with hushed amusement. A faint metallic clang echoes down the conduit. Both freeze. Time stretches like taffy, sticky with possibility. Another clang. Nora grips her flashlight. Leo mutes the recorder. They listen. It is, thankfully, only a stray bolt released by thermal contraction in a support bracket. Berlin's winter, always dramatic, loves loosening screws just to watch people tighten. Relief arrives in simultaneous exhales. Leo unmutes, Nora sits. Milton groans Act 2, Scene 3. Nora adjusts her headset and monitors line B, where she catches snippets of a Soviet birthday call. There is singing, slightly off-key, the melody wobbling like a bicycle on cobblestones. The sincerity is disarming. She mouths the tune, adding her own silent harmonies. Leo claps politely when the song ends. Somewhere in East Berlin, a middle-aged intel clerk blows out candles, utterly unaware of his transcontinental audience. Perspective can be liberating. It reminds them the world is larger than strategy meetings and graphite-skinned corridors. In that spirit, Nora produces a pocket chess set, clicks magnets onto squares, and challenges Leo to blitz at 2 moves per minute. No talking. They arrange pawns between real changes. Bishop to c4, rook to d8, knight to... A sudden burst of static interrupts the game. Leo snaps back to the console. This time the wire carries a military dispatch encoded, crisp, urgent-ish. He records the cadence while jotting approximate groups for later decryption. Nora reboxes the chess set, pieces immortalized mid-charge. Static fades. The line returns to its hobby of complaining about beat shortages. All is mundane again. Leo yawns, scribbles timestamps, reevaluates caffeine strategy. Nora resumes doodling, draws a knight, yelling, Check your privilege. An hour crawls by like a well-behaved centipede. Drip count, steady. Gauge needle, cooperative. Milton, sullen but intact. Everything projects competence so loudly that fatigue decides to tiptoe in. Wearing socks the major definitely starched. Leo stretches, vertebrae popping like Morse dashes. He invites Nora to a micro-meditation. Inhale 4 counts, hold 4 counts, exhale 6. They synchronize breaths, tunnel rhythm slowing to match Dot within that calm. Nora dreams awake of breakfast pastries that aren't powdered with geopolitics. Leo imagines a telephone that rings only to deliver compliments. Sudden laughter slips out when Leo's stomach growls an octave above middle C. Nora salutes the sound, dubbing it Operation Rumble. Leo bows. The recorder clicks off automatically. At the top of the hour, tape full, replacement spool ready. Nora threads brown ribbon onto reels, her hands practice dancers. Leo labels the box Night Drizzle 14 and stamps it confidential. Though he briefly considers confetti for auditors, shift change looms. 2 new agents stomp on the hatch above. Nora makes a wager with Leo about which one will trip on the ladder rung everyone trips on. They are both correct. The second agent slips, curses softly, regains composure. Ritual fulfilled. Credentials exchanged. Passwords murmured. Atmospheres swapped. Nora hands over the notebook. Leo passes the biscuit tin, now light as ideology. The newcomers nod, grateful. Half asleep already. Nora ascends first, pausing at the top to inhale the metallic night. Leo follows, ticking mental boxes. Tape secured, sockets stable. Milton folded for another poetically wheezy evening. As they vanish into surface shadows, the tunnel absorbs fresh guardians. Rain slackens like applause dimming after an encore. Cables resume their whisper campaign, and the pump hums a lullaby older than détente. If sleep brushes your own thoughts now, let it. The world overhead may bicker, but here in the hush below, maintenance is perpetual. Humor is contraband currency, and even starch socks can be a lullaby. Surrender to the hush. Let your mind wander to a Cornwall beach or a pineapple handkerchief. Exhale the espionage, keep the biscuits, and rest. Let go of the day. Above ground, Berlin streetlights are staging an audition for sunrise, but the tunnel is still in its midnight costume. Moist air clings to the concrete like a polite ghost saying, "Don't mind me, just haunting the plumbing." Even your breath decides to speak softer, eddying in front of your face and then tiptoeing away. Tonight's crew arrives in staggered silence. The way librarians sneak into a surprise party. Murph replaces his usual coffee thermos with iced tea summer. Espionage requires seasonal beverages. Evelyn follows, carrying an umbrella because the tunnel has developed a drizzle problem no weather bureau will admit exists. She christens it Operation Drizzle, which sounds less heroic than it feels. They duck beneath a freshly tarred patch where the ceiling sweats like a nervous diplomat. Each drop hits Murph's shoulder with the precision of Morse code. Dot. Dash, don't tell me one. He pretends to translate. The roof would like a raise. Lucy Duval, a visiting cryptographer from Paris, slides into the chair once reserved for cardboard morale posters. She brings pastries contraband enough to qualify as subversive diplomacy. One almond croissant later, the night feels 10%. Friendlier and 40% stickier. A row of indicator lights pulses green. The top is live. Somewhere under Karlshorst, Soviet clerks are arguing about train timetables, unaware their grievances are about to earn archival immortality. Evelyn adjusts the gain until the voices are as clear as gossip in a cafe queue. Static ebbs and flows, punctuated by the distant clunk of typewriter bars. Lucy hums a half-remembered jazz line, letting the rhythm guide her note-taking. No one speaks above a hush. Even jokes arrive wrapped in velvet. Tonight's first linguistic gem comes from a colonel complaining that procurement delivered left boots 2 sizes larger than right boots. Murph scribbles, Cold War now officially unfashionable. A fresh puddle forms under the splice cabinet. Evelyn deploys the umbrella over the junction box as if knighting it for bravery in damp conditions. She whispers, "Let there be dryness." And for once the tunnel obeys. Outside, thunder rumbles with the arthritic dignity of an aging tank division. Down here, the only artillery is Lucy's sneeze half apology, half alarm test. She's allergic to dust layered before Stalin's first 5-year plan. The phone chirps once. Station Center wants a status update. Evelyn answers with a terse hit of code words that, translated loosely, read, "All quiet, feet slightly damp." The reply clip means headquarters is equally thrilled and equally bored. Murph cues a new reel and labels the previous one Bootgate. He's certain some analysts will laugh loud enough to disturb the hush of Langley's fluorescent dawn. A sudden spike breaks the calm of frequency, hop like a frog on hot asphalt. Everyone freezes, humor evaporates into focus. Lucy snaps her. Notebook shut, her eyes wide and bright as fresh headlights. The anomaly stabilizes into a whispered side channel. Soviet engineers are testing a line encryption upgrade named Sokol-M. The word lands with the weight of an unopened letter. Bomb, unknown but probably expensive. Evelyn flicks, switches faster than a card shark on a deadline, isolating the new feed. Murph throttles the recorder speed to capture every nuance. Lucy decodes on the fly, pencil dancing. The tunnel itself seems to hold its breath. Minutes pass, thick as syrup. Then anticlimax. The test ends, officers sign off, and routine gossip resumes about weather reports and who borrowed whose stapler. The entire episode slides back into the ordinary, like a nightmare you forget before breakfast. Relief floats in, buoyant and sleepy. Lucy reopens her notebook to draw a triumphant falcon wearing sunglasses, captioned "Sokol-M, but make it fashion." Murph claps once, the sound embarrassingly loud, then apologizes to the cables for startling them. Water drips find afresh. Victim, the pastry box. Almond flakes become soggy debris, and Lucy mourns with theatrical gloom. Evelyn promises replacement eclairs tomorrow, thus inventing the first sugar-based arms treaty. A breeze sneaks through the service duct, smelling of wet asphalt and possibly optimism. Your lungs mirror the draft, slow inhale, slower exhale air. So cool it could still be wearing its nightcap. Murph tests the umbrella's durability by twirling it like a parasol. It showers droplets across the tape racks, provoking Lucy to declare, "You've weaponized weather." He bows, as any gentleman villain might. Time stretches elastic, drowsy, benevolent. The hum of the recorder morphs into a purr. You can almost feel the reels turning inside your own ribcage. Winding up the day's last fragments of energy. Evelyn checks her watch, shift half over. She drafts a memo in her head titled "Recommended Tunnel Accessories," starring dehumidifiers, non-squeaky chairs, and miniature beach umbrellas for morale. Lucy's pencil slows, words blurring into slanted constellations. For a moment, she looks less like a spy and more like a student nodding off in the warm back row of history class. This is the safest kind of danger, the risk of relaxing too well. Above them, a freight train crosses a bridge, vibrations thrumming the tunnel spine like distant drums. The sound is gentle, rhythmic, hypnotic. It invites your heartbeat to join. The procession, ba-dum-la-la-bye. Murph peers at a pressure gauge that reads slightly low. He imagines the needle as a sleepy eyelid, half shut, refusing further gossip. He jots, "Gage wants a nap, same." Evelyn opens a tin of boiled sweets for sugar reinforcements. She rolls one into Lucy's palm, another into Murph's. The candies click against teeth, metronomes of peppermint diplomacy. A soft chuckle escapes Lucy when a Soviet major brags about his victory in last week's table tennis tournament. She translates the boast aloud in a sing-song whisper. Murph mimes serving a phantom paddle shot, missing on purpose, awarding the major his moment of glory. The umbrella finally surrenders. A rivulet sneaks past its fringe, dribbling down Evelyn's sleeve. She sighs with melodramatic heroism and dampens the corner of her notebook instead. In the margin she writes, "Berlin Tunnel, some assembly required." Lucy proposes a game. Everyone must invent a Cold War movie title using only snack references. Evelyn opens with Tinker Tailor Soldier Pie. Murph counters from Russia with Loaf. Lucy wins with cereal in present danger. A pun so unforgivable it earns synchronized groans and a gold medal. Their laughter settles into ripples, then into calm, then into hush. The tape rails keep rolling, raindrops keep composing, and the night, pleased with itself, keeps drifting. Shift relief is due in 20 minutes. Murph prepares fresh labels. Evelyn updates the log. Lucy seals her notes in a waterproof pouch. That is only slightly less waterproof than promised. They work slowly, unhurried, like chess players who know the endgame by heart. Outside, sirens shriek somewhere in the distance, quickly swallowed by wet air. Down here, no alarm dares intrude. The tunnel is a neutral zone where panic forgets its passport. Evelyn whispers one last check-in to Station Center. The reply click sounds bored but grateful bureaucratic. Gratitude is still gratitude. Lucy caps her pen with the gravity of a courtroom recess. Murph snaps shut the tape recorder just long enough to swap reels, the clock radiating finality. Your mind echoes that click, a door closing gently on loose thoughts. 5 minutes. They gather gear and practice choreography, each movement as soft as folding origami. The umbrella, though wounded, is carried upright like a banner rescued from battle. A metallic groan above signals the hatch. 2 silhouettes descend. Fresh uniforms, fresh thermoses, fresh immunity to the tunnel's eccentricities for now. Passwords pass between lips like dandelion seeds. Weightless, gone before you can second. Guess them. Evelyn, Murph, and Lucy ascend the ladder, shoes squeaking tiny farewells. Their shadows shrink, then vanish, replaced by newcomers who will learn the drip rhythm and the almond croissant mythos in due course. Silence reclaims the corridor, dignified and non-committal. The cables resume their whisper campaign, and the roof drizzle keeps time. If your eyelids grow heavy, blame it on atmospheric espionage, the kind that tampers gently with consciousness until surrender feels like wisdom. Inhale once more, as if tasting almond pastry without calories. Exhale as though steam from a quiet kettle. Somewhere above, neon flickers promise tomorrow. Somewhere below, magnetic tape spins its endless bedtime story. Let yourself drift with the reels. Let the last puddle ripple out of focus. And if you dream of umbrellas, make them indestructible after all. Even in secret tunnels, there's always weather. Settle in. The tunnel greets you tonight with the faint smell of pencil shavings, as if someone upstairs is erasing history one typo at a time. Berlin has slipped into that hour when insomniacs pretend their bedside lamps are applause. Meanwhile, the cables below the city hum like bass strings during a secret sound check. You're invited to the concert, front row. Pajamas encouraged. A fresh trio of night owls descends the ladder. Agent Priya Kapoor from MI6, cryptographic hobbyist. And champion T snob, CIA linguist Jonah Jinx Morales, whose every second word accidentally rhymes. And Staff Sergeant Carl Vogel, Western liaison, whose mustache is rumored to be a NATO listening device. They land lightly, boots muffled by decades of dust that no janitor has cleared to sweep. Priya snaps a glow stick and rolls it along the floor. The green one skids until it kisses a coil of copper, settling like a tiny aurora. Mood lighting, she whispers. Vogel nods gravely, already writing a report in his head, titled Unapproved Luminous Implements, Possible Diplomatic Incident. Jinx just grins and produces ginger biscuits he claims were smuggled past Checkpoint Charlie under the label. Industrial washer parts. The hook tonight, in case you missed it, is a flicker in line B. The cable that eavesdrops on an otherwise unremarkable Soviet motor pool. Somewhere between a requisition for antifreeze and a grumble about seat cushions, the signal hiccuped, spat static, and then resumed like nothing happened. It could be corrosion. It could be sabotage. Or, according to Vogel, it could be what happens when Moscow's gossip circuit tells a joke so bad even electrons cringe. Jonah leans over the reel 2 reel deck, adjusting tension with the same tenderness one might use on a cello string. If the line drops again, he mutters, we'll be rhyming with divine decline. Oh, never mind. His colleagues have learned to accept the rhymes as verbal background radiation harmless, unless you care deeply about iambic purity. Priya slides into the monitor chair, headset poised. In her ear, a Soviet junior lieutenant is practicing English phrases. Please to direct me to cafeteria line for second portion. She scribbles this down, labeling it potential morale weakness, chronic hunger. Humor thrives in tiny indignities. So does espionage dot above. Thunder rolls like a misplaced bowling league. The tunnel coughs dust in retaliation. Vogel produces a thermos the size of an artillery shell and pours coffee dark enough to qualify as a state secret. Steam curls upward, momentarily drafting new maps on the low ceiling dot, and then, as if on cue, the red fault lamp flares. Line B drops dead. Headsets fill with silence thick enough to spread on toast. Nobody moves for a heartbeat. The hush feels ceremonial, like a cathedral between psalms. Jinx breaks it with a whisper. This is the part where the universe tests our courage, or at least our cable splicing skills. Priya exhales, stands, and retrieves the emergency toolkit, screwdrivers, soldering iron, and a spare length of coax coiled like a reluctant snake. Vogel unrolls a schematic of the tunnel's arteries. Fault triangulates here, he says, tapping a point not 15 meters away, an alcove nicknamed the Nook Dot. The Nook is barely tall enough for optimism. It houses junction boxes, a forgotten ration tin, and, for reasons no one will admit, a ceramic garden gnome wearing a red army cap. The gnome's grin is the stuff of mild nightmares, but tradition dictates he remains. The last operative who tried to evict him slipped on condensation and dislocated dignity. They crouch in the alcove, headlamps casting jittery shadows. Jinx peels back insulation with the care of a museum conservator. Easy does it, he coos. The cable shows a clean slice, edges too neat for corrosion. Vogel raises an eyebrow so sharp it could file reports by itself. Priya examines the severed ends. "This isn't Soviet sabotage," she murmurs. "Look at the angle, more like tiny teeth." "Titha," Jinx echoes, unconsciously rhyming with wreath. Priya nods, then points to the floor where small pellets are scattered like poppy seeds. Tunnel mice. The Cold War's smallest double. Agents. Back at the equipment rack, they splice in a fresh segment, shielding it with improvised armor, aluminum foil from Jinx's biscuit wrapper, wrapped beneath the sleeve of Vogel's field notes. Paperwork finally protects freedom, he sighs. Sacrificing bureaucracy for security. Signal restored. The Soviet motor pool chatter flows again. A gruff voice complains a driver keeps tuning the cheap radio to Western rock and roll. Another suggests replacing the culprit with a more reliable gearbox, which everyone understands is coded language for somebody's nephew. Hook number 2 arrives disguised as laughter. The lieutenant who is practicing English now bungles. An idiom. "I am under the weather of bad mood." Priya chuckles so lightly it might be a breeze. She adds idiomatic confusion to her growing list of cultural fractures. Vogel reads over her shoulder and notes, "Imagine if global tensions deflated because someone thought peace talks involved pastries." Jinx answers by brandishing another biscuit, hours drift. Coffee yields to peppermint tea, the steam less insistent now. The trio trade stories and whispers. Priya recalls decrypting a love letter that turned out to be an inventory of tractor parts. Jinx once spent 2 weeks translating a speech that was canceled when the speaker lost his voice to karaoke. Vogel confesses he started naming each tunnel drip after German philosophers. The one near the ladder is called Drippekind. Mid-shift, a courier wire arrives via the handset. Headquarters has detected upticks in Soviet night traffic near Brandenburg Gate. Could be maneuvers, could be misdirection, could be a late delivery of starched parade uniforms. The message ends with advise heightened vigilance, trust your instincts. Priya circles that last phrase. Instincts thrive in tunnels where calendars lose traction. Jinx dims the lantern to half. A listening post. Should feel like twilight, enough light to work, not enough to invite restlessness. You might notice your own eyelids sinking to that dimmer switch. Lazy and content. Beneath the hush, the tiny gnome in the nook keeps smiling. Some nights Priya swears it shifts position, aligning its gaze toward whichever cable is most critical. Superstition is the unofficial fourth operative. It's easier to believe in tunnel spirits than in perfect luck. Another hour blooms and fades. Rain above softens to drizzle, reminiscent of rolled parchment unfurling across rooftops. In the headset, the lieutenant begins practicing small talk. "What is your favorite television dog?" The question hangs in the air like confetti nobody. Scheduled. Vogel's reply is immediate and silent. He writes Lassie on a scrap of paper and slides it to Priya, who nearly snorts tea through her nose. Jinx counters with Snoopy, gesturing at the reel-to-reel loop as if it were a doghouse. A Mamunda humor, measured in milligrams, is the dosage that keeps paranoia from souring the stomach, but suspense re-enters, barefoot. Line C, feeding embassy chatter, emits a pulse 3 short, 1 long. Morse for Q, Priya freezes. Q signals often precede encrypted bursts. She adjusts gain, heart rate hitching, even as her voice stays velvet soft. Stand by, maybe traffic. Static. Swells, then a staccato transmission spills through coordinates. Dates, a cody name, Grey Wind. They record, transcribe in shorthand, resisting the urge to speculate. Tolstoy wasn't wrong secrets, make bigger pillows for dreams. but twice the weight dot as swiftly as it started, the burst ends. Silence returns, pliant. The trio share a look that means we'll sleep later. Vogel sketches a quick map overlay. Jinx files the tape spool into a lead-lined box. Priya logs the event in ink that smells faintly of blueberries. You, listening, can choose a different path. No need to weigh coordinates or parse acronyms. Simply exhale. Let the notion drift that someone, somewhere, is paid to keep watch so. You can drift off without clutching binoculars dot outside. The first hint of dawn silver edges the ventilator shaft. The tunnel dims further, pretending night still owns the clock. Priya rolls her shoulders, easing knots woven by cables and caution. Jinx hums a lullaby his mother claimed was Spanish, but might have been invented for naps. Vogel finally sips. Cold coffee and pronounces it acceptable in emergencies. Shift change nears. Relief agents assemble topside, stamping feet against chill. The latter will echo soon with their descent. Until then, the tunnel grants a final hush, like theater lights fading before a curtain. Take that hush for yourself. Fit it over your thoughts, like soft headphones. If anxiety gnaws, remember the mice, conquered by biscuits and ingenuity. If duty nags, remember the gnome, grinning through decades. Untouchable dot, your breath can mimic the reel to reel. Slow rotation, steady tempo. Inhale on count 4, hold for 2, exhale longer than you spoke all day. Repeat until muscles admit defeat. Priya caps her pen, pockets the transcript. Jinx rhymes end with friend and calls it a sign. Vogel salutes the drip named Dripikind. Just in case philosophy listens, the ladder rattles. Fresh boots approach. Night's guardians make way for dawns, and you, warm in whichever safe corner you occupy, may let eyelids seal the treaty. Trust tunnels and strangers to barter information while you barter worries for dreams. The cables will keep humming. The gnome will keep watch, and secrets will behave at least until sunset. Rest now. History has night shift coverage. Let your shoulders uncoil. The tunnel has decided to host a sleepover, and you are the honored guest. Outside, snow is rehearsing its descent, flake by flake, like a choir clearing its throat before a lullaby. Down here, the air tastes faintly of solder and cinnamon, an unlikely duet courtesy of a clandestine repair crew and a contraband pastry box. The Cold War rarely supplies comfort food, but tonight the agents have smuggled in kindness disguised as crumbly buns. A new shift begins with the thud of boots, quiet boots. Mind you, rubber soled and diplomacy approved. First through the hatch is CIA analyst Nora Numbers Patel, forever armed with a spiral notebook tattooed in graphite hieroglyphs. She claims her sketches look like data, that they resemble jazz solos scored for pencil and impatience. Trailing her comes MI6, linguist Arthur Finch, whose mustache might qualify for dual citizenship. He is fluent in Russian, German, and the universal language of overbrewed tea. The hook of the night? Headquarters has detected a curious uptick in coded phrases about singing stones. Nobody knows whether the Kremlin is drafting a folk opera or hiding microphones inside geology. Either way, Nora and Arthur are here to eavesdrop on bedrock. Arthur plugs a fresh reel into the recorder, the tape sliding across the heads like silk across a ballroom floor. Nora adjusts a row of gain dials, her fingertips feather light, as if afraid to wake the electrons. She whispers, ready for the midnight playlist. Arthur nods, already mouthing translations to himself. Camni poet. The stones are singing. Static. Blossoms. Then settles into a faint conversation to Soviet engineers. debating transistor models while a distant Samovar hisses in protest. Arthur murmurs a running subtitle track, peppered with half-chuckled asides. He says the new capacitor is stubborn, like his mother-in-law. That's a direct quote. Nora grins, penciling a tiny cartoon capacitor wearing curlers. Minutes bloom into half hours. The tunnel's fluorescent lights buzz on a steady B-flat. It would be annoying if it weren't so consistent. Snow above finally commits, piling against gutters, muting every car horn within 4 kilometers. The entire city feels padded now, as though the world agreed to lower its voice so that secrets could speak louder, but Arthur pauses the tape. "Did you hear that?" he asks, eyebrows arched enough for mid-century architecture. Nora tilts her head. In the hush, she detects a soft, rhythmic knocking 5 taps, a pause, 3 taps. Morse code? Or maybe a Soviet janitor jamming to an internal rhythm section? They wait. The pattern repeats. Nora notes the beat in her pad. Translated, it spells nothing useful, but looks suspiciously like a drummer tuning up. Just to be safe, they flip on the auxiliary mic pointed at the tunnel wall. It picks up a roaming hum, like a tuning fork searching for a duet partner. The hum deepens, then fades. Nora shrugs. Arthur deadpans. Perhaps the Stones are rehearsing. Their humor is a lantern in claustrophobic dark. Arthur recites an old Oxford joke about linguists in a bar. Nora counters with a limerick concerning thermionic valves. Each punchline lands gently, laughter truncated to whispers so thin they could slip beneath a locked door dot to stay warm. They pace the length of the main gallery, counting floor marks left by earlier teams. Graffiti hides along beam edges. Tunnel. Rats roll scratched beside a crude pizza slice. Someone has drawn cartoon Khrushchevs waltzing with West German radio towers. Spycraft may be rigid, but boredom is a mischievous sculptor. Back at the console, the reel rolls on. A Soviet colonel complains about budget cuts, his voice bouncing through cables older than some of his infantry. He mentions Project Smegalot, literally Snowflyer. Arthur's mustache twitches. A Cody name that dramatic deserves footnotes. Nora highlights the phrase in neon pink because Cold Wars need bright moments. The hum from the wall returns closer now, like a bee's valentine. 5 taps, pause, 3 taps again. Arthur checks his wristwatch. The pattern coincides with a dropout spike on the main line. Could the Soviets be injecting noise? Or is Berlin simply allergic to winter wiring? Nora hooks a portable oscilloscope to the spare coil. The waveform dances like a skyline seen through tears. Peaks align with the tap rhythm. She sketches the shape, labeling it Singing Stones, Take One. Arthur suggests they sample the vibration frequency. At worst, it becomes underground jazz. They attach a piezo pickup to the wall, a spy stethoscope, for soundscapes nobody requested. In headphones, the vibration resolves into a low-pitched chant, almost human syllables stretched until unrecognizable. It's eerie, yes, but more like monks with stage fright than ghosts with grudges. Arthur, channeling David Attenborough, narrates softly. Here we observe the rare subterranean choir, known to nest in cables and snack on state secrets. Nora giggles, the laugh bouncing against concrete and returning as a polite echo. Her notebook now sports a new diddle, anthropomorphic stones wearing headphones. She writes note to self, pitch concept to Beek's rock opera, literally, around 3:17. A message from HQ crackles through the field phone. Urgent. Verify integrity of line. Delta 7. Intermittent anomalies coincide with enemy patrols. Nora thumbs a flashlight, scanning cable bundles until she finds Delta 7 draped like a lazy snake across a junction. She traces it to a patch box, unscrews the lid, and meets a tangle that could out. Puzzle Gordian knot. Arthur keeps translating. Chatter while she works. The Russians discuss coal quotas, pastry thefts, and a rumor that American jeans are now available in Prague. Nora smiles at the mundanity, then curses softly. Delta 7 has a hairline nick, insulation frayed like antique. Lace. She splices in a fresh segment, wrapping tape with surgeon precision. The hum drops, the taps cease. Stone satisfied, Arthur concludes. He logs the repair under routine maintenance, though everyone knows nothing here is routine. Snow capes. Rehearsing overhead, percussion sections of crystals meeting cobblestone. Somewhere beyond the tunnel, a dog barks at nothing in particular, perhaps even canine sense geopolitics. Nora stretches, spine cracking like old vinyl. She yawns into her elbow, mindful of mic sensitivity. Arthur pours thermos tea, which tastes vaguely of nostalgia and aluminum. They toast to small victories, intact cables, captured code words, and pastries that haven't yet triggered an international incident. Around 4 o'clock, the Soviet channel clears its throat with a new tone, high priority. Dispatches in an over-formal baritone. Arthur translates briskly. They're scheduling a test of resonant infrastructure near Treptow Park. Resonant infrastructure? Nora writes it down, underlining twice for emphasis and once for dramatic flair. Suddenly, the piezo sensor peaks, a spike tall enough to scrape hypothetical ceilings. The wall trembles, just an eyelash, but enough to rattle screwdriver handles. Nora's ears pop. Arthur steadies a coil of wire like it's a frightened ferret. Then the vibration vanishes. They exchange a glance that says, "We will never admit how weird that was." Nora files the event as seismic curiosity. Arthur labels it possible Soviet dubstep. Humor, again, as their seatbelt. With dawn only 2 hours away, they start closing logs. Nora rewinds the tape, marking sections with colored stickers. Yellow for gossip, red for technical intel, blue for comedic gold. Arthur sharpens his pencil on a matchbook and scribbles phonetic footnotes about vowel softening patterns and regional Russian accents. Scholars somewhere will thank him, perhaps. The tunnel yawns in sympathy. Its lights dim 1 lumen like eyelids sagging. Snow above ground slows to lazy confetti, a peace offering from the sky. Electric heaters click, releasing a sigh of warm dust. You, listener, might notice your own pulse synchronizing with the soft whir of the reel. Arthur hums a lullaby his grandmother swore was Bavarian but might have been marketing. Nora listens, eyelids heavy, notebook drifting toward her lap. Even secret keepers need sleep, and the tunnel's strange confident cradles them. If your thoughts begin to float here, feel free to let them. Imagine every anxiety as a loose screw. Turn snug, each suspicion tucked into its proper bracket. When fear tries to tap out 5 knocks, answer with calm silence. The stones will sing themselves quiet. Shift relief is due at 5:30. Until then, the recorders roll, the cables stretch. The snow hushes every excess decibel. Arthur's mustache relaxes, shedding diplomatic tension. Nora's pencil slips from her fingers, landing on the notebook with the softest of plinks. Beyond Berlin, headlines sharpen their pens. Treaties rehearse their clauses. But here, within, 12 feet of frozen soil, the world has downsized to 2 sleepy agents, a repaired line, and an audience of unseen minerals. Enough story for one night. Let the hum of the tunnel nestle you deeper. Let the snow's percussion fade to a whisper. Remember that even in decades defined by vigilance, there exists an hour reserved for rest. You have found it. Claim it with a slow breath, in and out. If dreams arrive carrying briefcases full of nonsense, greet them politely and send them. To the cloakroom. You needn't declassify anything until morning. For now, secrets are filed under pending ZZZ. Snow will keep the city's heartbeat muffled. Stones will keep their odd lullaby to themselves. And you may drift wherever. Quiet leads. Let the city blur. Tonight Berlin is playing hide and seek with its own reflections, and every puddle on Friedrichstrasse thinks it's winning. Down in the listening tunnel, the only reflection is the sheen of sweat on a copper junction box. It glints whenever someone shifts, a silent disco ball for men and women too serious to dance. You can feel the temperature settle around you like an extra blanket cool, impartial, already bored with politics. Agent Juliet, Jules Sokolov, yawns into the sleeve of her regulation cardigan. She's third-generation Russian emigre, second-generation British citizen, and first-generation person to discover that two loyalty oaths cancel each other out, leaving only tea-soaked irreverence. Her MI6 personnel file lists 14 languages. Her colleagues swear she can swear in 20. Tonight she's assigned to scribble duty, transcribing whatever slips through the wires fast enough to outrun its own censorship stamp. Across the fold-out desk, CIA cryptanalyst Leo Morales greets insomnia like an old pen pal. He drums a blunt pencil between knuckles, inventing jazz rhythms he's too shy to play above ground. Leo is the kind of man who apologizes to typewriters before pounding keys, just in case machines have feelings. In this tunnel, they very nearly do. The shift has been quiet, mostly procurement chatter about rubber boots. A melancholy weather report and one suspiciously poetic grocery list: carrots, beets, still, remember? Jules circles remember twice in red grease pencil, as if the USSR might be smuggling nostalgia. Then the tunnel hiccups, a static pop, tiny but undeniable, like a popcorn kernel repenting in a microwave. Both agents freeze. Leo's hand hovers above the reel to reel switch. Jules stops breathing long enough to hear her own pulse negotiating surrender. The hiss vanishes. Everything settles back to normal. To normal.Jules writes a note. Possible test pulse? Leo scribbles underneath. Or a communist sneeze. Professional analysis impeccably understated. They listen harder, which in spycraft means relaxing every muscle except the eardrums. The line gives them nothing, just a long, self-important silence. It feels like standing in an elevator with a stranger who obviously wants to talk, but won't break first. Time passes. Slipper-footed. Jules recounts silently how many tunnel spiders she's named so far this month: 7. Number 4 is currently rappelling down a cable, looking adventurous. She decides if it makes it to the desk, she promote it to station mascot. Leo, meanwhile, wonders whether boredom itself might be the Soviets' greatest weapon, drain the attention, and secrets leak out like drowsy daydreams. At 02:00 hours, a remote relay clicks open and a new voice arrives, thick with cigarette smoke and bureaucracy. The speaker complains about allocation of telephone poles in rural Latvia. Jules perks up. She loves logistical rants. They're the haikus of authoritarian regime's strict form, unexpected beauty. 100 poles short, frost bites wires and ankles. Send vodka, maybe? Leo taps the reel. The tape obeys, winding truth onto brown acetate with the patience of a monk copying forbidden verses by candlelight. He labels the box Latvian pole dance and grins exactly once privately. Outside, the wind slaps a manhole cover. The resulting clang echoes through the tunnel like a cartoon light bulb turning on. Jules and Leo exchange that universal spy glance, meaning, should we panic now or later? They choose later. It's easier to schedule. There's a knock at the hatch, 3 quick taps, too slow, the code for courier drop. The hatch wheel spins, revealing another MI6 agent, MacDougall, a Scotsman built like a disappointed oak tree. He passes down a thermos labeled coffee and mutters large enough to qualify as a scream. Max says nothing else. Clandestine caffeine requires no commentary. Jules pours 2 enamel mugs. The brew is thick enough to audition for asphalt. Leo adds powdered milk, which floats on top like surrender flags. They sip, they wince, they carry on. 307 hours. The line awakens again. A Soviet engineer describes, in affectionate detail, a failing transformer near Potsdam. He compares its hum to a goat trapped in a violin. Jules jots the phrase verbatim, starry-eyed. Leo mouths the words like a prayer. He will be quoting that for years. Minutes later, something else bleeds through faint, irregular pulses not matching telegraph cadence. Leo adjusts filters, chasing the anomaly. It resolves into music, a muffled accordion playing Katusha. Unsanctioned, off-schedule, clearly someone's midnight rebellion. Jules whispers, "You think it's a morale broadcast?" Leo shakes his head. Maybe just a janitor with good taste. They let the song play. The accordion's wheeze mingles with cable hiss, creating an accidental lullaby. For 30 seconds, the Cold War pauses, politely tapping its foot. When the tune ends, Jules writes accordion incident in the log and underlines it 3 times for a dramatic flair. Then she sketches a tiny musical note with sunglasses. It feels like vandalizing gravity. A sudden whiff of ozone drifts through the tunnel. Leo smells something else, 2 fear shaped like burnt insulation. He swivels to a power strip near the floor. 1 socket glows ember red. An overload. Jules lunges, yanks the master breaker. The tunnel plunges into darkness, so complete even memories take a moment to adjust. For 5 heartbeats, neither agent moves. They listen to their own breathing, amplified by panic. Far above, the city's distant sirens continue their nightly rehearsal, oblivious. Leo's hand finds a flashlight. He thumbs the switch. Nothing. Jules murmurs, spare bulbs in the toolkit. Familiar choreography. 2 steps forward, crouch, whisper apology to any spider displaced. She cracks the kit open, retrieves a fresh torch, and light returns in cautious increments. They inspect the outlet. The fuse is charred, but the cable remains intact. No sign of tampering. Likely just moisture, the eternal nemesis of secret infrastructure. Still, protocol demands paranoia. Jules checks the hatch secure. Leo reboots the recorder, holding his breath until rails spin again. He exhales relief like steam escaping a kettle. Power restored. They share what spies call the grin with no teeth. Acknowledgement of danger survived. Humor withheld until later drink stop 400 hours arrives without asking permission. Jules stands, stretches, vertebrae clicking like Morse code for sleepy. She recites a quick string of French curses linguistic caffeine. Leo runs diagnostic tones through the line. The scope trace looks healthy, if slightly insulted dot in the lull. Jules produces a deck of cards. She deals silently. The game is called Cut Out, invented by board operatives last winter. Rules: One player invents a ridiculous alias for the card on top of the deck. The other must rhyme it in under 3 seconds or surrender a chocolate ration token. It passes the time and teaches improvisation, which the training manuals assure them is strategic. 8 rounds later, the deck has turned into Colonel Wigglepants, Duchess Sneezefluff, and Sergeant Disco Turnip. Leo is down 2 tokens but claims moral victory. Jules suggests promoting Sergeant Disco Turnip to Major, citing unmatched root-based leadership. They laugh in whispers, because spies cannot be seen enjoying themselves lest morale be intercepted. At 0445. Footsteps echo on the ladder. Relief team inbound. Jules logs final notes, adding a footnote predicting future rainfall, because why not? Leo packs reels into a padded satchel, sealing them with the reverence of archivists handling stained glass prayers. He clicks the latch. The sound is crisp, definitive shift complete. Before ascending, Jules knuckles the junction box affectionately. Behave, she tells the wires. They respond with an indifferent hum, the electrical equivalent of a shrug. Leo pauses at the bottom rung. Think they'll decode the goat violin reference? Only if they have souls, Jules replies, smiling. They climb into Perdon Chill, leaving the tunnel to its cables and ghosts. New agents descend, fresh coffee, fresh quarrels, same secrets. Life continues on magnetic tape, centimeter by centimeter. As quiet resumes, the tunnel breathes out tension. Even concrete needs a moment to unclench. Spiders resume patrol. Somewhere a droplet forms, hesitates, then falls, punctuating the dark with a tiny remark. Plink. If you're still awake, notice how your heartbeat has matched that interval, slow, measured, deliberate. Let it continue. Inhale through the nose. Let the air cool the back of your throat. Exhale as if fogging up Forbidden's windows. The Cold War presses on, grand and ungainly, but tonight its footsteps have been recorded, catalogued and tucked away like misbehaving lullabies. Somewhere analysts will parse them, diplomats will deny them, historians will crave them. Your only task is simpler. Remember nothing until morning. Let the hum fade. Let your eyelids settle like protective shutters over priceless art. The tunnel is on watch. The cables are vigilant. The accordion, saintly rebel that it was, has gone to sleep. Follow its example. Drift past politics, past power surges, past even your own cleverness, until each thought becomes a snowflake auditioning for a quiet street. When dawn finally taps your window, you can wake knowing that somewhere under Berlin, a pawn shop of secrets kept playing guardian while you dreamed, happily unpaid, heroically mundane. And that, for one night at least, is victory enough. Let your pulse drift lower. Tonight the tunnel has borrowed composure from the moon, and the moon, glowing like a pale bureaucrat on night shift, has plenty to spare. Above ground, the Brandenburg Gate preens beneath spotlights, frozen in a never-ending curtain call. Tourists will meet it at sunrise and swear history is glamorous. Down here, history wears slippers, shuffles in wool socks, and complains that the kettle never really boils. The first oddity of the shift arrives as a postcard. It slides down the drop tube in a hush of air, landing on the operations table, like a magician's playing card. On the front, a saccharine drawing of bears eating honey in the Tiergarten. On the back, an entirely different kind of sweetness. Ciphered coordinates that translate to a Soviet field wire, newly laid near Trump Tower Park. Evelyn Drake grins. Who says bears can't be helpful? Sam Murphy logs the card in his notebook, a notoriously untidy document, thick with doodles and footnotes such as remember to iron socks. The notebook is equal parts engineering diary, recipe file, and existential question list. He adds an asterisk. Card smells faintly of peppermint. Peppermint means low risk, according to their own homegrown code. Cinnamon would have signaled. Defconanoid. Rainwater beads along the ceiling seams and forms scheduled drips. One drop every 7 seconds on the same bolt head. The pattern is so reliable, the agents have named it tunnel metronome. Evelyn taps her boot to its beat, practicing the universal language of rhythmic boredom. Across town, East German guards rehearse a parade. The tunnel microphones pick. Up the brass band tuning, the stomp of boots, the drill sergeant swearing with obituary solemnity. The audio feed buzzes in Murph's headphones, but he keeps the volume just low enough that it feels like distant thunder, the sort you half enjoy while deciding whether or not to close the window. A telephone crackles. It's Control requesting a diagnostic on line 3. Evelyn responds in her warmest librarian whisper, the one that suggests overdue espionage fees. Line 3 is fine, or as fine as a cable can be after months of mice treating it like a subterranean freeway. Speaking of mice, a blur darts across the floor, pauses in the halo of a work lamp, and delivers a look of pure rodent contempt. Murph offers it a crumb of ration biscuit. The crumb is refused. Apparently, even mice have standards in Berlin. Tonight's stash is a triumph of creativity over rationing. There are 2 barrels of American jelly beans, 3 contraband slices of Black Forest cake folded inside, schematics for vacuum tubes, and a tin of sardines labeled use only during siege conditions. Evelyn decides it is. Technically a siege, an intellectual one, and pries the lid open. The fish perfume mingles with solder fumes until the tunnel smells like a seaside. Radio repair shop mid-shift brings an unexpected serenade. A border guard somewhere topside sings Elvis, off-key but enthusiastic. The lyrics stumble through. The concrete in muffled English. You ain't nothin' but a hound dog, before dissolving into a grumble when the sergeant catches him. The agents exchange grins. Even ideological walls can't block rock and roll. Murph checks the reel-to-reel levels. Tape spins steady, whispering over the heads like lazy ceiling fans. He labels the current Full Moon Ruminations 12 because he enjoys messing with archivists. One day, he hopes someone in Langley will read that and wonder whether this CIA funded moon poetry. A light gauge on the patch panel hiccups, then drops to 0. For half a second, the tunnel heartbeats faster. Power failure? Sabotage? No. Evelyn kicks the side of the cabinet classic field maintenance, and the gauge obediently rises. She bows to Murph, who awards her an imaginary medal for valor in percussive engineering not far above. The moon slips behind clouds. Down here, the absence of its borrowed light is felt as a quiet recalibration. The fluorescent bulbs seem a shade. Prouder, no longer competing with lunar ambience. Messages keep trickling through. A requisition for 300 meters of phone cable, salted with code words about a garden party. An officer requesting leave to visit his ailing grandmother, the same grandmother used as an excuse last month, and a snippet of slang, so new Evelyn jots it down for future translation. Languages evolve quicker in whispers. The tunnel metronome drip falters, then resumes in double time. Rain intensity increasing. Murph imagines Berlin pavements shining, neon lights painting slick zebra crossings into accidental abstract art. He feels a pang for fresh air, but remembers that fresh air up there comes with frisking and paperwork. Pressure equalizer hisses. New air colder, tinged with coal dust, sweeps the corridor. The chill is a lullaby. You can feel it too, settling on your eyelids. Heavier each minute, Evelyn flips open a pocketbook of German idioms, searching for inspiration to widen their custom dictionary. She reads aloud, Tomaten often Augen haben, to have tomatoes on one's eyes, meaning to be oblivious. Murph nods, deadpan, appropriate for any intelligence oversight committee. They file the joke for tomorrow's coffee break. Another postcard drops. This one depicts a smiling Berliner Kindle beer bottle. The cipher, once decoded, warns of increased wiretapping countermeasures near Karl Marxallee. Evelyn whistles softly. Beer delivering bad news proof that the universe has gallows humor. They draft a quick response on waterproof paper, attach it to a weighted capsule, and send it upstream through pneumatic tube. The capsule whooshes away like a swallowed comet. Midnight. Ticks past. Murph measures shifts in the microphone hiss. He swears he hears snow beginning. Snowflakes, he theorizes, make a frequency all their own, a sort of cotton wool murmur. Evelyn is skeptical but indulgent. She logs his speculation under acoustic meteorology. Future historians will decide if he was a visionary or merely sleep-deprived. The heat coil in the small kettle clicks off. 2 cups of tea steep silently. They sip, letting the warmth redraw their silhouettes against the cold routine. Somewhere in the wiring, a relay snapped shut. It sounds like a camera shutter. A tiny photograph of the night, preserved in copper. 2 can tap that photograph behind your eyelids now. See the cables stretching like patient vines, the dials glowing ember orange, the agents shrinking into slower motion as caffeine gives way to comfort. Sudden footsteps overhead. 3 no. 4 measured strides. Possibly a patrol changing posts. The agents freeze by habit, hearts sinking with the tunnel metronome, which has returned to its original tempo. 1, 2, 3, drip. The footsteps fade. Breathing resumes. History, apparently, was just rearranging its furniture. One last. Transmission filters and a weather report disguised as crop yield statistics. Code breaks clean. Snow showers until dawn. Evelyn smiles, imagining the east and west sectors blanketed in uniform white. Ideological graffiti temporarily erased. Murph rewinds the final tape, scribbles the label Snowblind 01 and slots it into a padded case. The case will join dozens of siblings on a convoy headed for decoding rooms that smell of stale paper and fresh ambition. Shift relief arrives. New faces, same weary bravery. Handshakes are brief. Warmth is exchanged like contraband. Lighters. Evelyn offers them the remainder of the sardines. Gift accepted with heroic courtesy. As she climbs the ladder. Murph behind her. The tunnel seems to inhale grateful, perhaps for a moment alone. You may follow that exhale. Let it guide your own. Breathe out any static left from the day. Inhale. A piece lined with peppermint and solder above. The moon reemerges, bathing Berlin's rooftops in patient silver. Below, the listening tunnel hums a lullaby no stage ever hears, a concert for sleepers and ghosts. Let that hum carry you. The Cold War can wait in the queue. Your dreams have priority boarding. Let your thoughts idle. The tunnel has scheduled a quiet rebellion against time, and you're on the guest list. Berlin's winter sky fidgets above, rehearsing snow that never quite arrives. Street lamps flicker in sympathy, like spectators unsure whether to clap or complain. Down here, beneath the cobblestones, the cables vote unanimously for silence, the only election result anyone trusts. Tonight's shift begins with a rumor. It travels faster than footsteps, ricochets off concrete, and lands on a workbench where Agent Tessa Calder's coffee cup waits. The rumor says Moscow has installed a new encryption protocol so dense it weighs down every syllable. Tessa raises an eyebrow, as if evaluating a souffle that promised to rise but refused. "Great," she whispers. Fat vowels and sulking consonants, exactly what the night needed. Her partner, CI, a linguist, Leo Navarro, enters chewing the last bite of a pretzel as though it were classified evidence. He places a reel on the recorder and pats it affectionately. "This one's name is Bertha," he announces. "She loves difficult conversations." Tessa laughs a soft fizz that barely disturbs the dust. "Bertha, meet fat vowels," she says, pressing record with the solemnity of a ship's captain. Christening hull against water. The tape begins to turn. Chalking lines of history in magnetic ink dot, an hour drifts by in polite monotony. Static crackles, voices mumble about tractor quotas. Someone coughs 3 times in suspicious iambic pentameter. Leo scribbles notes. Cough pattern equals potential code. Investigate or offer cough drops. He circles the question and draws a tiny lozenge for emphasis. The tunnel lights buzz, not the dramatic sizzle of film noir, just the everyday complaint of bulbs forced to stay awake past curfew. Tessa decides they need music. From a jacket pocket, she produces a harmonica the size of diplomatic immunity. One breath conjures a lullaby that sounds like moonlight walking home after last call. The sound hangs a moment, then disappears as though embarrassed to linger. "You ever think about the future?" Leo asks, adjusting the gain knob to catch a murmur about railway schedules. "Frequently," Tessa replies. "Particularly the part where people stop trying to sabotage each other's phone lines." "Bold dream," Leo says, jotting future equals quiet. In the margin dot another voice filters through the headphones, deep, methodical, ordering replacement fuses for a radar. "Station." It's followed by a joke so poor the translator in Langley will mark it unfit for morale. Leo's eyebrows dance. Terrible jokes are gold. They prove the enemy is human, fallible, maybe even bored. The rumor returns wearing facts. A new Soviet frequency has gone live, piggybacking on an old line like a cat claiming an unguarded lap. Tessa adjusts the patch panel, knitting copper and fiber as if tailoring a secret suit. The voice that emerges is crisp, no fat vowels, just lean directives. Shipment arrives Tuesday. Handle with velvet gloves. The phrase raises mutual. Smirks, velvet gloves. That's either uranium or a very shy piano. Leo says. Tessa signs the remark into the log. Possible code for high-value cargo or timid instrument. A faint tremor ripples through the floor. Both agents freeze, hearts sinking to seismograph speed. Could be a distant tram, could be unwanted company. They listen, no footsteps, no alarm. The tremor passes like a joke that doesn't land. Still, protocol demands a systems check. Leo opens the fuse box. Tessa surveys the main conduit, fingertips brushing insulation. She finds a hairline crack in a plastic sheath, nothing catastrophic, but enough to spark gossip among electrons. Leo hands her a roll of tape labeled emergency. Shush. She wraps the wound until it resembles a tiny mummy sworn to silence. Restored, they return to their stations. The tape counter clicks 0047 meters. Leo's notebook page is half filled with doodles, a Soviet mascot bear wearing earmuffs, a telephone pole doing ballet. You're going to run out of ink, Tessa warns. Art supplies are a morale investment. He retorts, their banter's gentle static against the larger hum. Beyond the city, missiles sit in silos like sulky teenagers grounded for eternity. Yet here, two people argue about pin cartridges down another hour slides past. Leo replaces Bertha with a fresh reel named Rufus. Rufus has ambitions. He wants to capture a major policy shift before breakfast. The recorder whirs approval. Tessa stretches, vertebrae cracking like diplomatic ice. Time for ration cocoa, she announces, fetching a tin decorated with reindeer that look vaguely alarmed. They sip in silence, steam fogging glasses, cocoa, tasting faintly of cardboard promises and hope. A sudden pop bursts from the headphone feed, sharp enough to prune thought. Leo stiffens, a coded burst. He rewinds 3 seconds, plays it again. Asterisk pop dash pop dash pop. Tessa listens. Could be a burst transmission, she muses, or someone opening carbonated water too close to the mic. They isolate the fragment, lowering. Play back to snail pace. 3 pops become 3 syllables. Zatam, then silence. Leo's pen hovers. That's Russian for and then suspenseful, but incomplete. Maybe they're telling bedtime stories, Tessa suggests. Leo grins. And then the brave comrade balanced the budget. The end. They laugh softly, careful not to disturb the stalactites of hush overhead. Near 3 a.m., the rumor loops back a third time now, wearing a trench coat of official confirmation. Soviet technicians are sweeping lines in East Berlin, hunting for anomalies. The tunnel is safe, buried under layers of plausible deniability, but the cables feeding it snake dangerously close to curious boot heels. Tessa dims the main bulb. Shadows lengthen until equipment resembles dormant animals, half asleep but ready. To bolt, she reviews contingency plans. Cut the feeder, burn the logs, exit through the water shaft. None of it feels heroic. All of it feels real. Leo replaces Rufus with a cassette dubbed Edith. Edith's mission, capture any whispered clue before dawn. Tessa logs tape rotation times, penmanship steady despite adrenaline trying to doodle panic. Outside. The sky chooses. Snow after all. Flakes drift like confidential memos with no forwarding address. The Brandenburg Gate puts on a white hat. The radio tower disappears into milk. Underground, cold creeps through concrete, polite yet uninvited. Leo pulls a blanket from a crate olive drab army issue rumored to have served on 3 continents and 1 honeymoon. They share it without comment, a small pact of warmth against bureaucracy. A voice crackles a Livian, hurried, discussing schedule adjustments at a checkpoint. Then another older, referencing an upcoming ballet. The juxtaposition makes Leo smile, war and art jostling in the same sentence. He notes timestamp 3:12 and adds, a margin sketch of dancers wearing helmets. Tessa eyes the tape counter 0093 meters. Almost dawn, she whispers. Her voice carries the softness of someone promising not to wake a cat. Leo nods. Shift relief arrives at 4, but relief is relative. The next team will pace the same rectangle of floor, argue with the same rumor, sip the same overboiled cocoa. Snow thickens. In some embassies, night clerks stare out windows, measuring flake size as though it indicates policy direction. In the tunnel, Tessa and Leo lean back, letting eyelids droop in micro-naps between transmissions. 3:47, a final burst clear, confident. Operation Velvet to commence on Tuesday. No fat vowels now, just precision. The phrase lands like a pebble in calm water, ripples sliding across copper. Leo scribbles, underlines twice. Tessa flags the reel with a red sticker. Velvet, she echoes. That's us, isn't it? Either irony or foreshadowing. Both, Leo guesses, foreshadowed irony, the poet's favorite. They exchange weary smirks, knowing analysis departments will chew this phrase like bubblegum for weeks. But for the moment, the mission is simple. Keep the tunnel listening, keep the cocoa lukewarm, keep the rumor honest. 4 o'clock. Footsteps descend, 2 silhouettes. Fresh thermoses, fresh gossip. Shift change glides in with minimal friction. Tessa hands over the logbook. Leo passes Edith like a baby bird. They trade passwords too harmless to repeat aloud and climb the ladder toward a snow-dusted dawn. Halfway up, Tessa pauses, peering down. Tell Bertha and Rufus goodnight, she calls softly. And Edith, Leo adds. Especially Edith, she agrees. The new crew chuckles, already settling into the blanket's residual warmth. The recorder clicks, a new reel begins. Snow hushes the city, and somewhere in the hush a single syllable waits, za tame, and then you breathe slower, letting uncertainty curl into corners like drifting flakes. Let the cables hum you homeward. Let the tape wheels spin your dreams. And if tomorrow brings velvet gloves or shy pianos, you'll meet them rested. Coffee in hand, rumor in pocket, ready to listen again. Ease yourself into stillness. Somewhere above, a newspaper boy is folding tomorrow's headlines, but the tunnel has decided tomorrow can wait its turn. The small hours taste like mint and metal. Someone smuggled and chewing gum illegal under any sane maintenance manual, absolutely essential for morale. Each slow pop echoes down the corridor like a secret handshake, reassuring everyone that tension hasn't eaten all the fun dot cable looms hang overhead. Shadows spinning lazy circles that resemble mobile planets. They remind you the universe hasn't. Notice the Cold War and probably never will. Comforting, really. Even Jupiter has bigger worries than whose wiretap wins. Tonight, the crew is down to a duo. Agent Evelyn Drake on her farewell shift, and Sergei, a defecting Soviet lineman whose real name will never appear in footnotes. He arrived through a hatch that smelled of diesel and decision. Now he sits cross-legged, knees nearly touching the cables he once swore to protect. Evelyn offers him the mint thumb. Sergei declines with a shrug that suggests he's saving all his rebellion for the part that matters, talking. He begins by describing a switchboard in Moscow that sounds like a beehive auditioning for a symphony. Above the drum, there's always one sleepy operator humming folk songs, off-key but earnest. It's data with melody, he says. Evelyn suppresses a smile. Musical intelligence beats signals intelligence any day. They run a test splice, patching Sergei's insider knowledge into the existing tap. Lights on the console bloom soft green, as though approving the new friendship. The reel-to-reel whirs a greeting, accepting yet another confession onto magnetic ribbon. Somewhere far away, a Soviet colonel orders more typewriter ribbon and less poetry. The recording needles twitch in silent laughter. Sergei rolls his eyes and mutters, "There is never enough poetry." The moment lands like a wink from fate. Evelyn checks her watch. 2:14. Officially. Her shift ends at 4, unofficially, dawn. We'll decide. She imagines the first sliver of sun slicing through bombed-out rooftops, catching on barbed wire like glitter that forgot its manners. Outside, the city sidewalk is still wet from last night's drizzle. Puddles cradle fractured reflections of propaganda posters. One slogan claims unity. The puddle ripples, unconvinced. Sergei takes out a small wooden box he's carried across 3 checkpoints. Inside, a river stone, identical to the ones Evelyn and Murph used as dead drops. This one, though, bears a faint graphite sketch, an arrow pointing left, and beneath it a single Cyrillic word, home. He sets it gently next to the spice cabinet, a symbolic passport. Evelyn suddenly feels the weight of every conversation this tunnel has overhead, like 1,000 whispers resting on her shoulders. She straightens, clears her throat, and decides humor is still the best scaffolding for courage. "Welcome to the West, where we measure freedom in coffee strength," she says. Sergei grins. "Then my future is espresso." "Double shot," she answers, tapping the gum pack like a drum roll. They settle into rhythm. Sergei unspools classified gossip. Evelyn calibrates levels. The recorder stitches time together. Minutes slip by, stitched into the long ribbon of just another night, which feels suspiciously like the beginning of morning. A distant rumble ripples through the concrete. Not thunder and not a truck. The duo pause, eyes meeting. Another rumble. Closer, then a staccato thunk over head boots on ladder rungs. Evelyn switches off the main monitor, plunging them into half-darkness. Sergei pockets the river stone, palms sweating but steady. They exchange no words. The plan has been practiced in whispers for months. Boots hit the tunnel floor with the grace of an upset filing cabinet. Flashlights sweep, stabbing cones of light that bounce off spools and junction boxes. Evelyn slows her breathing. Sergei chooses a spot in the shadows, blending like a comma in an overgrown sentence. A voice in Russian mutters about routine inspection. Another complains about the smell concrete, solder, mint gum. Evelyn mentally apologizes for the gum dot. The patrol approaches the console. One soldier taps a gauge, apparently satisfied when the needle trembles but holds steady. They move on. A flashlight brushes Sergei's sleeve. He doesn't blink. The universe continues ignoring the Cold War, but right now the Cold War definitely notices him. The tension stretches like magnetic tape pulled too tight. Something has to give. It's the gum. A bubble pops sharp, unmistakable, comedic. The sound ricochets down the tunnel, a harpoon of absurdity. For half a heartbeat, nobody reacts, as if collective reality needs to buffer. Then confusion blooms. The nearest soldier spins, nearly tangling his flashlight strap. The beam dances over empty space where the gum culprit should be. Evelyn has already stepped behind the splice cabinet. Sergei melts further into shadow. The patrol exchanges shrugs faulty. Acoustics, they decide, and resumes its sluggish sweep. Evelyn clutches her chest, silently cursing and thanking the gum both. Sergei's shoulders quake in silent laughter, though it might be adrenaline hiccups. Either way, humor has once again elbowed terror out of the spotlight. Minutes later, the boots recede up the ladder. The tunnel exhales. Electric hum returns. Humble and steady like a kettle finally boiling. Evelyn restarts the recorder. The reels spin, unaffected by drama. Sergei produces a fresh cassette marked Meteor, his coding name for whichever storm changed his trajectory. They log final notes. Splice integrity intact. Patrol none the wiser. Gum considered a liability. Head office will love that. A soft chime from Evelyn's watch. 3:50. Time to surface. She powers down secondary circuits, leaving the tap to its silent vigil. Sergei shoulders a duffel containing nothing but clean socks and a lifetime of new. Questions dot at the ladder. Evelyn pauses, looking back once more. The tunnel feels smaller than it did at midnight, as if secrets shrink after sharing. She whispers a farewell. Behave yourself, old friend. The wolves absorb it, adding one more layer to their archive dot they climb. Rung after rung creaks in the dark, sending up tiny echoes like farewell kisses. At the hatch, the city introduces itself with faint diesel fumes and a breeze that smells of bakery yeast. Dawn is late, but clearly on the gas list. Fresh air hits. Sergei first. He inhales like someone who's been holding breath for years. In a sense, he has. Evelyn follows, closing the hatch with a click polite enough to be a library door. Streetlights dim as eastern sky tints pale rose. Cars appear, early deliveries humming along cobblestones. A cyclist adjusts goggles, unaware of the history slipping. Past him in wool coats. Evelyn leads Sergei through back alleys where graffiti argues with architecture. They stop at a tram stop plastered with concert posters. Jazz quartet, American saxophonist, freedom improvised in smoky bars. Sergei traces the saxophone with his finger, smiling at the idea of music without permission. The tram arrives olive green, windows fogged with warm breath. The conductor nods at Evelyn, recognition coded in brief eye contact. They board. Inside, passengers cradle thermoses, newspapers, and fragile hope. Evelyn hands Sergei a ticket stamped Zone B. He studies it like a museum artifact. It's just cardboard, she whispers, but tonight it's proof you exist on the new map. The tram rattles forward. Tracks sing under iron wheels, a lullaby disguised as public transit. Sergei stares out the window, watching barbed wire fade behind burnt corners and bakery signs. His future smells of yeast and roasted beans. Evelyn rests her head against the seat back, eyelids fluttering. She's off duty now, off everything and exhaustion. Walks in wearing slippers, ready to tuck her brain into bed. You too feel the rhythm of the tram, rocking gently. Let the sway align with your breathing. Imagine the tunnel receding, its cables still humming, its reels still turning, its secrets safely snoozing until someone presses play. Outside, dawn finally crosses the threshold, spilling gold on frost-dusted rooftops. The sky stretches, cracking its knuckles after a long night. Somewhere on the other side of the world, another tunnel will awaken. Another pair of agents will whisper. Another pebble will hide a microfilm. But you don't have to follow them, not tonight. Tonight, you ride this tram until the conductor calls the final stop. Ruheplatz, place of rest. Tickets ready? You already paid with your attention? That's enough. As the carriage slides along its steel lullaby, let your own thoughts disembark, one by one at peaceful stations, calm, comfort, quiet. The Cold War can keep chewing gum and counting reels. You have the luxury of surrendering to the gentle clatter. Close your eyes. Feel the seat vibrate under folded hands. Golden light warms your eyelids.